The Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. Section 188. The ordinary man, however hard his life may be, at least has the pleasure of not thinking about it. To take life as it comes, living it externally like a cat or a dog, that is how people in general live, and that is how life should be lived. If we would have the contentment of the cat or dog, to think is to destroy. Thought itself is destroyed in the process of thinking, because to think is to decompose. If men knew how to meditate on the mystery of life, if they knew how to feel the 1,000 complexities which spy on the soul in every single detail of action, then they would never act. They wouldn't even live. They would kill themselves from fright, like those who commit suicide, to avoid being guillotined the next day. Section 189. Rainy day. The air is a veiled yellow, like a pale yellow seen through a dirty white. There's scarcely any yellow in the grey air, but the paleness of the grey has a yellow in its sadness. Section 190. Any change in one's usual routine is always received by the spirit as a chilly novelty, a slightly uncomfortable pleasure. Anyone who leaves the office at 5 o'clock when he's in the habit of leaving at 6 is bound to experience a mental holiday and a feeling like regret for not knowing what to do with himself. Yesterday, I left the office at 4, as I had to take care of some business far away, and by 5 o'clock, I was through with it. I'm not used to being out on the streets at that hour. I found that I was in a different city. The soft light on the usual facades was uselessly tranquil, and the usual pedestrians passed by in the city next to me, like sailors who disembarked from last night's ship. I returned to the office, which was still open, and my colleagues were naturally astonished, as I'd already bid farewell for the day. "What? You're back?" "Yes, I'm back. There, all alone with those familiar faces who don't exist for me spiritually. I was free from having to feel. It was, in a certain sense, home. The place, that is, where one doesn't feel." Section 191. It sometimes occurs to me with sad delight that if one day, in a future to which I won't belong, the sentences I write are read and admired, then at last I'll have my own kin, people who understand me, my true family in which to be born and loved, but far from being born into it, I'll have already died long ago. I'll be understood only in effigy, when affection can no longer compensate for the indifference that was the dead man's lot in life. Perhaps one day they'll understand that I fulfilled like no one else my instinctive duty to interpret a portion of our century. And when they've understood that, they'll write that in my time, I was misunderstood. That the people around me were unfortunately indifferent and insensitive to my work, and that it was a pity this happened to me. And whoever writes this will fail to understand my literary counterpart in that future time, just as my contemporaries don't understand me. Because men learn only what would be of use to their great-grandparents. The right way to live is something we can teach only the dead. On the afternoon in which I write, the rain has finally let up. A gladness in the air feels almost too cool against the skin. The day is ending not in grey, but in pale blue. A hazy blue is even reflecting off the stones of the street. It hurts to live, but the pain is remote. Feeling doesn't matter. One or another shop window lights up. In a window higher up, there are people looking down at the workers who are finishing up for the day. The beggar who brushes my shoulder would be shocked if he knew me. The indefinite hour grows a little later in the now, less pale and less blueness mirrored in the buildings. Fall gently, final hour of this day, in which those who believe and are mistaken engage in their usual labors, with the joy of unconsciousness, even in their pain. Fall gently, final wave of light, melancholy of this useless afternoon, fogless haze that seeps into my heart. Fall gently and lightly, shimmering blue paleness of this aquatic afternoon, gently, lightly, sadly, over the cold and simple earth. Fall gently, invisible grey, embittered monotony, sleepless tedium. Section 192. During 3 straight days of heat without let-up, a storm lurked in the anxious stillness until finally drifting elsewhere. And then a gentle, almost cool warmth arrived to soothe the bright surface of things. So too, it sometimes happens in life that a soul weighed down by living suddenly feels relief for no apparent reason. I see us as climates over which storms threaten before breaking elsewhere. The empty immensity of things, the tremendous oblivion in the sky and on earth.